this is ground zero. And the people in blue that you can see are members of the Russian search and rescue team. Now, they have just arrived within the last half hour or so. We came in with them, and they are going to make as thorough a search as they possibly can underneath this pile of destroyed grain. That they are standing on one of the columns of the silo that contained the country's grain supplies. Because of this destruction caused by the explosion, that means that the country has less than a month's supply of grain. But apart from the food insecurity problems that are inevitably going to be rolled out as a result of this disaster, there are also possibly people underneath that. We have spoken to a member of the Lebanese civil defense who's been working here since the explosion happened. He said if anyone was around on top of the ground, they didn't survive. Everything was obliterated. They haven't even been able to recover bodies from here, just parts of limbs. But underneath, he said, the maps show there is an underground room underneath there, and that gives them a slither of hope that maybe people somehow survived under there, and that's why they're going to be searching this area in particular. They've got a drone, which you can possibly hear above us, just to help them identify weak spots where they might be able to dip down below. They're taking in specialist equipment to try and detect any sound or any movement. Now, the Lebanese civil defense have already said that they've pinpointed areas around this where they don't think people have survived, where there's a terrible smell coming from the area. It's just over there. But here, there is still a little bit of hope, just because of this underground compartment that they are now trying to reach. You can see there is tons and tons of debris on top of it, but it hasn't collapsed. It stayed on top of the ground. It hasn't gone penetrated, as far as we can see, below the ground. And that's why they're spending so much time and effort. This is one of the first international teams to arrive here in Lebanon. They arrived this afternoon. The Russians have already set up a field hospital in the old stadium in Beirut. Very impressive it is too, as well, with tents and tents full of medical equipment. And they brought a specialist team, very experienced and skilled in search and rescue. President of France, Emmanuel Macron, was here at this site earlier, and he has also devastated areas in the city and promised at least France's help, and also some sort of guarantee that he'll ensure any donated funds from France will go to the right people. Because there are many people here who think that all of this is, whether it was caused by accident or some sort of deliberate attack, because many people are still believing that that could possibly be a case, largely because they distrust almost everything that their government tells them. The government has had accusations of corruption leveled against them for many years, and the cause of this explosion, or the seat of this explosion, which was this huge store of ammonium nitrate kept here at this warehouse and which exploded and set off this terrible destruction, laid here and was stored here for 6 years. And the people of Lebanon want to know how that was so. Why was that allowed to happen? Who knew about it? And what happened that led up to this catastrophic series of events? Right now, you can see I think there's about 25 of them as part of this search and rescue team. I saw at least 2 female members, and the Lebanese civil defense people have been telling us that we know that amongst the heroes, and there are a number of heroes who were involved in this terrible tragedy, were the 10 firefighters who turned up here to respond to the first fire, the first explosion here. They were actually inside this area when the second explosion happened. All of them were killed. There's no question all of them were killed, and they still haven't been able to retrieve their body. Amongst them was one young 25-year-old firefighter, a woman, the only woman in the group. She's had her burial today. Another distraught family, we know that many dozens are still waiting. They still are trying to track and find 80 missing people, among them a number of firefighters and people who came to the scene to try to give help to this terrible tragedy. So there are a lot of families, a lot of people, not just those who have lost relatives, but also those who've been left maimed and are now critically ill in hospital, who want answers to why this happened. If the line holds up, I'd like to just turn you round and maybe take you over here and show you a bit of the level of destruction. All that is the city of Beirut, if you like, and all those buildings that you can see in front of you are pretty much all damaged. They've all suffered in some way, many of them terribly insecure, and may have to be levelled or certainly restored in some way. Huge impact on the Lebanese economy, and one which the Lebanese economy minister was saying earlier today they simply can't recover from this unless there is substantial international help. And of course that is going to raise serious questions about what happens to that money because of the criticisms of corruption in this country. But why don't you just take a look at the scene, and I'll leave you with these pictures showing the Russian search and rescue team looking desperately still. It's going to be some miracle if they find anyone alive at this late stage. It's been a good 2 days now, but they aren't giving up hope because of the information that they've received that there is an underground compartment, an underground chamber, which they hope against hope that somehow people were in and have somehow survived this tragedy.